It's time for the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on 1610 AM XRB and XRBradio.com, also on AudioSportsOnline.com. Tonight's show is brought to you by our title sponsor, McDonald's, College Prospects of America, and BMO Harris Bank. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show. We are at the McDonald's in Avon off of Rockville Road and 267. I'm your host, Brian Scott, and I'm joined this week by the head coach of the Avon Orioles, Mr. Mark Bless. Coach, how are we doing this evening?
I'm doing well. We finally got some football weather now, so it's a little more comfortable in practice.
Yeah, well, and yeah, we've gone. I can't remember. I said before last week's game, I can't remember the last time that I've been in a mid-October game. It's not been cold, wet, rainy, nasty. It was a beautiful night up in McCutcheon where your team played last week, taking on what's been a fairly good McCutcheon Mavericks team all season long in Class 5A. But you come away with a win 31-13. Score maybe not quite as indicative of how that game went. You got a late touchdown by Derek Tennant when you were trying to really milk some clock. He breaks it off on a 24-yard touchdown run. So, it's not quite as indicative, but for the most part, I thought you handled McCutcheon pretty well, and the game got close a few times, but your team always responded.
Well, I think that's right. I don't think there was a time I felt too comfortable to start subbing away with our younger players. That being said, I thought our defense played extremely well. Obviously, when you score on defense, you're doing some good things. I thought offensively, we moved the ball consistently, but we also had our drive stoppers with penalties or a turnover, interception, or a fumble. So I don't think offensively we had a real solid game, but we did move the ball. But we got to eliminate the drive stoppers.
Let's talk about that defense. You come into that game with, I believe it might have been 3 or 4 already defensive touchdowns in the last 4 games. You get 2 more on Friday night. As Coach Dave Shelbourne, my broadcast partner, would say, for some reason David Griffith is in that offensive huddle. He always seems to know where the football is going, and he ends up with another pick 6.
Well, and I think it's what you expect from your good players. They're always around the ball. They spent the time on the film work, reading the scouting reports to have an idea of what they're going to face. And I think with somebody like David, he's a headsy player. He's going to put himself in a good position. And, he played the ball very well and took it to the house for a score. You
got another defensive touchdown early in that game and probably was a bit of a momentum changer. You got the touchdown. You had the squib kick. McCutcheon kind of botches the return on that. They end up at their own 5-yard line. And on the very next play, Aaron Phillips trying to hand the ball off to Nate Deno. It's fumbled in the end zone, and Rashawn Brent ends up falling on it in the end zone for a touchdown.
Right, and I think that was part of, of Rashawn getting the fumble recovery because our front 7, again, played extremely well. Was forcing pressure on their line and probably forced the quarterback to make an early decision, drop the ball. Rashawn was on the ball and got the touchdown.
You've got McCutcheon has probably 2 of the best backs in the Hoosier Crossroads Conference. Their leading rusher is Nate Deno. He leads the Hoosier Crossroads Conference in rushing yards. And I thought your defense did an outstanding job of limiting him. Didn't get a lot of runs up the middle, and the side-to-side defense was outstanding, limiting him around the edge.
I agree. Again, I thought we controlled the line of scrimmage. With our front guys and our linebackers scraped over the top very well and took away both the outside and inside run. Probably forced them into passing more than what they typically like to. All in all, it was a productive defensive game for us.
Derek Tennant, 2 touchdowns, 1 early and then the 1 late. Since coming back in week 5, he's been a pretty valuable back, along with David Shaw. That 1-2 combination has done a very good job on that offense.
Right, and we really like that combination. I made this statement to our players earlier in the year that when we have 2 good running backs, it makes us hard to defend because they're 2 different styles. David's more of a downhill runner, bigger guy, but good speed, and Derek's more of a slash runner. I think sometimes when you have one solid back, that when that guy gets banged up, now you're kind of in trouble with finding a backup for him. So I really like what we've developed in our run game.
I saw Brandon Peters throw the ball fairly well in that first half, and his main target was Andrew Griffin, who came down with some nice grabs.
Yeah, and Andrew's a guy for us that's more of a receiver, but he's been able to play cornerback for us and help us defensively. And now we're getting him back a little more on offense. We wanted him only as a sophomore to concentrate on one side of the ball. And at the beginning of the year, it was very important that he played corner for us. And as we went through the season, he started getting reps on the offensive side. And, I see his future down the road being more in our passing department.
Had a pretty good a very good defensive game. You said a little shaky on offense, and you look at Brandon Peters in that first half. Uncharacteristically, had 2 turnovers, fumble, and also the interception. And those especially the fumble, was deep in the McCutcheon end. Not something we've seen out of the sophomore. He's done a really good job of taking care of the ball, but turnovers and especially penalties had to have been troubling coming out of last Friday night's game.
Right, and those were the 2 things that I think haunted us early in the season against HSAA, prior to the Westfield game. And, we've grown since then, but sometimes, you take a step backwards to go forward. And it's definitely brought our focus back around to let's clean up our mistakes, the drive stoppers that you talk about, the penalties, as well as the turnovers. That's something we've been able to focus on this week in practice.
That was a rather unique game in McCutcheon. We were talking a little bit before we went on the air that flags seemed to have been flying at that, and you kind of said at times you just take a look at, and we were looking at the penalty statistics, and you say you just kind of wonder what they're looking at times.
Well, we scratch our heads often. We try not to get overwhelmed by the penalties or the numbers or yardage even. But sometimes, you scratch your head and wonder, if it's being called consistently, then you're okay with it. But once again, on the sidelines, we try not to go berserk on it. I think one time we kind of had a meltdown on the sidelines a few weeks ago. But other than that, I think our coaches keep in tune to what our players need to know for the game.
Your defense, as we've mentioned, playing so very well. You're getting scores off the defense. Your special teams defense has been actually very, very good. Getting scores on defense is always a great thing, but how do you go about practicing it?
Well, our coaches demand it. Coach Bombi, Coach Blue, Coach Harkema, Coach Hibby, Coach Shea. We keep track in practice how many turnovers we get defensively, and our players are very good to making sure that they put it on the board, how many they got per practice. So I think that our defense coaches have emphasized it, and our players know it's important.
Now that's something that as you've seen, especially as this season's gone on, your defense has just gotten better and better. You're only giving up in the last 4 games, I think, less than 13 points a game. Does that just add another fuel for that defensive, especially that front 4, just put a little bit of igniter in that defense?
Well, I think so. And I think, you go back to the beginning of the season when we gave up some points. Mostly it wasn't because we were out of position, but we missed tackles. And I think our tackling has definitely improved. And our D-line does a super job of putting pressure on quarterbacks to be able to throw the ball up. And I think when the ball's fumbled, it's because we got more than one guy in on the tackle.
Your opponent this week, as you will end the regular season, and Coach, I don't know about you, does it feel like this is the 9th week of the season?
No, it does not. We're getting ready for our senior night, and our big selling point to our players is this doesn't bring closure to the season. It's a way to honor our seniors. But it's amazing we're in week 9 already.
Yeah, it does. It feels like just a few weeks ago we were starting this season at Hamilton Southeastern. Here we are. We will end the regular season at home at Hendricks Regional Health Stadium against the Zionsville Eagles. Zionsville ranked 10th in Class 5A, and Coach Larry McWhorter's team 4-4 on the year. Take us through Zionsville. They always have been a good, fundamentally sound offensive and defensive team.
Yeah, like you said, they're well coached. Coach McWhorter and his staff does a super job preparing them. But when you watch them on film, you see on defense, you see 11 guys getting to the ball. On offense, you see full execution. One of the things that we really try to sell to our players is it's important for us to understand how physical of a ball game this is going to be. And that's the way they practice. Zionsville does a good job of coming out and attacking you. And if you're not ready, you get set in a hole, which we did last year. And even the year before when we won at our place, I think we were down 21-0 or 21-3 and managed to come out second half and play the way we were capable of. So that's our big selling point this week, is to understand how physical the game's going to be and how well coached Zionsville is.
The Eagles boast a senior quarterback in Josh Hinkle last week against Brownsburg, 10 of 17, 135 yards. He did throw 2 picks. And then running back Matt Panola, he's just I've known some of the Panolas there up in Zionsville.
Good football players.
They're always good football players. They're always Bulldogs. Last week, 15 carries for 98 yards and a touchdown. And as you said, it's you can't concentrate on any one thing. They can throw the ball well and they can run the ball well.
Right, and I think they're a lot like we are, very similar to us in our philosophy. They want to run the ball first to be able to set up their passing game. If you take away their run, then it's going to affect their passing game. But, the quarterback does a nice job of managing their offense and executing what they want done.
And as you mentioned, Coach McWhorter has always preached a team defense. You can't look on that football field and say, well, we got to look out for number 23 or whoever. You pretty much have to look at all 11 players.
Exactly. Looking at their front line, they're undersized, but they want to be undersized because they got great movement. They're quick off blocks and getting to the ball. And they'll get off a block and run as fast as they can to the ball, which is impressive. And their linebackers are very, very sound, bigger players. They're capable of coming up and filling a hole as well as getting to their pass coverage. And their secondary, I believe they're all returning, and they're just very smart, hard players.
This is the head coach of the Zionsville Eagles is Larry McWhorter. This is his last game, regular season game with the Eagles. You've known him now for a while. He spent 18 years with the Eagles with a 151-58 record. He's leaving Zionsville to do something that I think there's some coaches that would love to do. He's going to start a new program at Covenant Christian. What's your thoughts on the past few years against Coach McWhorter and the Eagles?
Well, and even before I got to Avon, when I was at Mooresville, we played him, I think, 3 times, and we're 0-3 against them. And, he just does such a super job. He'll be successful building a program as well as maintaining and taking it to the next level like he did at Zionsville. Just a super guy. He's a guy that I only get to see right before the game, and then he disappears because he's up in the press box. So you don't really get a chance to talk to Coach McWhorter after the game. But very impressed, first-class gentleman, and really like the way he coaches.
What would you do? I mean, he's in a very unique situation. He's not only got his Eagles team, but he's also building a program at Covenant Christian. How would you handle actually having to manage 2 programs at once?
I can tell you this, I'm not smart enough to do that, nor do I have enough time to do that. And he'll do it well. He hasn't shortchanged Zionsville at all. He does rely on his assistants to get some work done, but he'll do well at Covington Christian as well.
All right, we don't normally like to look ahead, but this is the last week that we will have the Avon head football coach Mark Bless with us here on the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show. You learned this past Sunday who your sectional opponent will be,
right,
and it will be the Ben Davis Giants. And you and I pretty much talked a little bit off of the air. Right now in 6A, Penn is the number 1 team. They are 8-0. My personal feeling, and this is just my opinion, Ben Davis might be the number 1 team in the state. They've played a much tougher schedule. They've lost once out of state and then once to Warren Central, but they've knocked off the number 1 team in Center Grove just a few weeks ago. They're probably playing the best football. What's your thoughts as now that you know your opponent, what you're looking for coming next week?
Well, it's true with the draw, especially now with 6A and you only have 4 teams per sectional. You're not going to have the selection of or the hope to draw somebody that's not any good. They're all good, and we know Ben Davis. We scrimmage them every year, so it's good that our players are comfortable with playing Ben Davis. We played them 2 years ago. They beat us pretty soundly, but it wound up being a track meet. I believe it's 62 to 45, maybe something like that. It was a long game. And our guys are, I believe, comfortable with playing Ben Davis since we open up scrimmage every year with them. Coach Kirshner does a very good job, and they've got some very good players. And, we'll worry about that next week after we get through our week with Zionsville. That's kind of what we preach to our players. We know who we're playing. We know where the game's at. We'll start preparing for them on Saturday morning.
The Avon Orioles come into this game with a record of 5-3. Coach, this is the last time we'll get to talk to each other. Let's get some of your progress. What do you think about the progress your team has made since that first week loss to Hamilton Southeastern to now, 4-game winning streak?
Well, I think defensively we've gotten our feet under us, as I mentioned. we were giving up some big plays early in the year, and I think that's because of poor tackling. But our players have really bought into our system that we're doing, and I think it's made a world of difference. The biggest improvement probably defensively is that we're making better tackles. We're not giving up as many big plays. Offensively, even though we took a step back last week, the drive stoppers killed us early, the penalties, the turnovers, and I think that's one area that our players have gotten better is taking care of the ball and try to eliminate the mistakes that we've made.
Your final home game is this week. You'll have it right here on Audio Sports Online and xrbradio.com as the Orioles welcome the Zionsville Eagles. It will be senior night. Why don't you mention a few of these seniors that have really contributed to this program?
Well, you put me on the spot there. We have 25 seniors. We have some great players that are seniors, and they're very good leaders, very good people, solid students, and, we're going to miss them. We're not going to talk like the season's over, but they've done a lot to progress us as a team. And, there's too many right now to talk about. But, a lot of them pop to my mind, but I don't want to leave somebody out. But I'm really pleased with what our seniors have given to us. And they're not ready for the season to be over by any means. So we still look forward to what we have in front of us.
You have one senior that is here with us tonight. Why
Yes,
don't you
we do.
tell about who our College Prospect of America's Athlete of the Week is?
Ryan Bradley, he's a corner for us, also plays a little bit of safety, is on a couple special teams. Ryan's a 2-year starter for us, and really for being somebody in 6A football that's a little undersized, and great motor, great knowledge of the game, and a true fighter for us, Ryan Bradley.
That is the head coach of the Avon Orioles, Mr. Mark Bless. Coach, best of luck this week against Zionsville, and best of luck next week against Ben Davis.
Brian, thank you for all your work with us, too.
All righty. We'll look forward to seeing you on Friday night. Coming up next, our College Prospects of America's Athlete of the Week, Mr. Ryan Bradley. You're listening and watching the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on xrbradio.com. Right now at all Avon and Brownsburg McDonald's, you can check out the brand new Mighty Wings. Mighty Wings are hearty bone-in chicken wings that are crispy and breaded with a spicy kick. Available in 3-piece, 5-piece, or 10 pieces, a 3-piece is only $2.99 at all Avon and Brownsburg McDonald's. Are you interested in playing a sport at the collegiate level? College Prospects of Central Indiana can help you achieve this dream. Right now, thousands of college coaches are searching for athletes but lack the resources to find them. This includes Division I, II, and III, as well as NAIA and junior colleges. College Prospects can help both male and female student athletes get the best education at the best price that allows them to continue participating in a sport they love. We do this through maximum exposure, providing you with essential tools, video, and unlimited personal guidance during the recruiting process. For complete details on all of our services, ask your local representatives, Bill Verhonick, Megan Eganoff, Joe Palizzi, or Rusty Dimer. You can also visit our website at www.collegeprospectsofcentralindiana.com or contact us at 317-650-4339. We also offer services for gifted students looking for the best fit in academics as well. College Prospects of America can help you achieve your dreams. Since 1984, BMO Harris Bank has grown to become one of the largest banks in the Midwest, serving personal, commercial, and affluent customers. Located locally at 610 West Northfield Drive in Brownsburg, we thank them for their sponsorship of the Hendricks County Coaches Show. Welcome back to the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on 1610 AM XRB and xrbradio.com. This evening we are at the McDonald's in Avon. That's off of Rockville Road and State Road 267. One more episode of the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show will be next week, our final show of the season. It'll be a sectional preview. We will be at the Brownsburg McDonald's off of Main Street from 7 to 8 p.m. Our special guest will be Brownsburg head football coach Brett Comer, and we'll also be taking a look at the sectionals that begin next week as we preview all of the Hendricks County schools in action next week. It is time for our College Prospects of America Athlete of the Week. He is Ryan Bradley, a senior defensive back for the Avon Orioles. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, Ryan. First off, how long have you been playing?
I've been playing football since about third grade. That's when I started playing rec league down here at IHSAA. I started playing like competitive football around 5th or 6th grade in the travel team, and then I got real serious about it around middle school, and that's when I.
Have you been an offensive player, defensive player primarily, or do you like both sides of the ball?
I typically played both sides of the ball up until about freshman year. I played running back on offense, mostly DB, safety on defense.
Now you work as primarily a defensive back, some corner, some safety. What are some of the keys that you like to use when playing D?
I basically like to read the receivers, watch their hips, and usually you can tell what route they're running by what other routes are being run by other receivers, and I like to watch the quarterback, and I kind of like to bait the quarterback sometimes and maybe jump in front of a pass.
You come into this game, as Coach said, play a little deep, but you also like to get in on kick returns. How do you like on special teams?
I got the chance to play kick returner for about the first 3 or 4 games once our starter, Nick Aitchen, he got a concussion. And, I really like playing kick. I like that position. It's a good opportunity to make a play, momentum shifter. But, yeah, I like playing that.
You come into this week, and that defense has been just outstanding, especially over the last 4 games as a defensive unit. Is that just something that you're like, come on, guys, one more time, one more time?
Yeah, it's a fight. It's always a fight. We're a bunch of competitors out there, and I think we take pride in what we do, and I think it's just a great feeling to be part of something so good and explosive.
You were playing your final game at Hendricks Regional Health Stadium in the regular season. Got sectionals coming up, but what are some of your memories of playing for Oriole football the last 4 years?
Well, I'm going to say one of my greatest memories is probably 2 years ago, my sophomore year. It was the game against Zionsville. We were down 21-0. And at halftime, it was our senior night, and Jerry Stevens gave us a big speech, and he got us all pumped up. And then we came out, and we fought back and won, and I kind of gave credit to Jerry for that win. He was injured at the time, he wasn't being able to play, and he really got us excited.
You come into this, you play a lot of football, but you're also a very, very good baseball player. Tell us about some of the skills that you might kind of combine from baseball and football.
Baseball, I've played probably about the same amount of time. It's just, you got to be fast. It's really hard to compare the two.
But you get a lot of hand-eye coordination. Yeah. You got to take a lot of instinctual when playing defensive back or safety, or in playing baseball, whether you're outfield and you're trying to get a jump, trying to guess curveball, fastball. It's a lot of instinct.
It's a lot of reading, a lot of instinct.
You come in. This will be your senior year. What's your plans for life after Avon football?
I plan to go to college. Probably study. I want to major in mathematics, but I'm not sure what I want to go from there.
If you've got something in mind, would you like to continue athletically?
I'd love to continue playing football after high school ends. It's a great sport. I love the game. I love the team you build, the brotherhood that you build with your teammates.
Now, have you gotten any interest in any other teams? Has anybody come looking for you?
Only a few. I've got some D3 schools, and I take a really big interest in Butler. That's about it.
And I'm pretty familiar. I was working with that Butler program, Coach Jeff Forrest, and that squad there is they play in a nice place, and playing Butler football is pretty nice. We were talking with Ryan Bradley, senior defensive back for the Avon Orioles. Ryan's been our College Prospects of America's Athlete of the Week. Ryan, you got Zionsville coming up, and I know the coach is just lasered you in on Zionsville, but your thoughts about playing Ben Davis in the sectional opener?
I think it's a good draw. We're comfortable. We've scrimmaged them earlier in the year. We're not going to be surprised by anything. I think if we can play with them, if we can beat them, we can beat anybody. So, it'll be a good
And that
game.
Would be a very good. I've always said that between the sectional the Orioles are in and probably that Hamilton County sectional, whoever comes out of those is a good shot for Lucas Oil because they played some good, tough competition. Ryan, thanks for coming here tonight and being our College Prospects of America Athlete of the Week.
Thank you.
That was Ryan Bradley, senior defensive back in safety for the Avon Orioles, and this is he has been the College Prospects of America Athlete of the Week. We're going to take a look at the Orioles this week as they get ready for their season finale, I should say, against the Zionsville Eagles. As we mentioned, Avon comes into this game with a record of 5-3. They are currently ranked 13th in Class 6. They took a couple of jumps up from 15th last week after the win against the McCutcheon Mavericks. They will take on a Zionsville Eagle team that is 4-4, ranked 10th in Class 5A. And as we've kind of said all along, 5A, well, that's a little bit of a wild card class this year, with so many of the schools making the jump from 5A to 6A. Currently, your number one team in Class 5A, well, it's another Hoosier Crossroads Conference school. That's the Westfield Shamrocks. They come in 7-1, and they have pretty much earned that number one ranking. Their only loss this year was against Fishers in triple overtime at Lucas Oil Stadium. So Westfield's number one. Zionsville is number 10. Even though they are 4-4, playing in that Hoosier Crossroads Conference, it's a tough conference, a tough competition, and the pollsters seem fit to put the Eagles ranked number 10. So coming into this game, as Coach Bless talked about, Zionsville, a very, very fundamentally sound team. They're going to play sound on both sides of the ball. We mentioned earlier that their quarterback has had a very sound game last week, but you also have to remember last week they played Brownsburg. Brownsburg, not quite what they've been in the past few years. I know Coach Comer was really looking to that game, hoping that he could see the Bulldogs maybe avenge that loss last year in the sectional opener after Brownsburg had gone undefeated 9-0. For Zionsville, senior quarterback Josh Hinkle against the Bulldogs was 10-17, 135 yards, but Brownsburg did pick him off twice. He did not throw a touchdown. Running back Matt Panola, 15 of 98, one touchdown in that contest last week, in which the Eagles defeated Brownsburg by the score of 27-3. Avon, a 4-game winning streak, and they're giving up less than 13 points a contest. Again, as Coach Bless mentioned, it's been the defense that's been the strong point for the Orioles, especially over these last 4 or 5 games. You take a look against teams like Fishers and Westfield, two of the most prolific offenses in the Hoosier Crossroads Conference, if not in Central Indiana, and they held both of those two teams to some of their lowest point and yardage totals this season. So for Avon, we've said it all along, they are a team ranked 13th. They are 5-3. They are 3 points away and 2 field goals within the final minute of play of being 7-1. So don't look at the record. The Avon Orioles have played very, very good football. And offensively, with Derek Tennant coming back, that running game has been very, very sound. Zionsville, not quite the strength. They haven't really been putting up a lot of points. They're not giving up a whole lot of points either. For the Eagles, they are scoring 14 points per game while giving up almost the same amount. So not scoring a whole lot, but also limiting their opponents to only about 14 points per game. So it should be a good game on senior night between the Avon Orioles and the Zionsville Eagles, and we will have that game for you right here on xrbradio.com, also on Audio Sports Online. I will be there with the former head coach of the Avon Orioles, Mr. Dave Shelbourne, Indiana Football Hall of Famer. Pregame show for that game will be at 6:45. Kickoff is at 7 o'clock. And, again, you can watch that game right here on xrbradio.com and audiosportsonline.com. When we come back, take a look at the rest of the Hendricks County Schools action this week. This is the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show. Right now at all Avon and Brownsburg McDonald's, you can check out the brand new Mighty Wings. Mighty Wings are hearty bone-in chicken wings that are crispy and breaded with a spicy kick. Available in 3-piece, 5-piece, or 10 pieces, a 3-piece is only $2.99 at all Avon and Brownsburg McDonald's. Are you a high school student athlete who would like to play at the next level, but are confused and unfamiliar with the college recruiting process? There is good news. College Prospects of America can help. We have been helping athletes get recruited since 1986.
Right here in Central Indiana, we have representatives who offer personal and professional guidance to both male and female student athletes. Call us today at 317-650-4339 to learn all about recruiting and how we can help. You only have one chance to get recruited. Act now. Contact College Prospects of America at 317-650-4339. Since 1984, BMO Harris Bank has grown to become one of the largest banks in the Midwest, serving personal, commercial, and affluent customers. Located locally at 610 West Northfield Drive in Brownsburg, we thank them for their sponsorship of the Hendricks County Coaches Show.
Welcome back to the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on 1610 AM XRB and XRBradio.com. This evening we are at the Avon McDonald's on Rockville Road, just off the corner of 267 in front of Kroger's. Next week will be the final show of the season, and we will be at the Brownsburg McDonald's on Main Street. Our special guest will be Brownsburg head football coach Brett Comer, and we will wrap up this season of the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show as we take a look at the sectional openers of all the Hendricks County schools next week. We'll briefly touch on it toward the end of tonight's show as we give you a look at who's playing where and when as far as sectional openers. Meanwhile, we still have the regular season to wrap up, and that will occur this week. The Brownsburg Bulldogs, well, it's been a tough road for head coach Brett Comer this year. He's had a very young team. He has just been beset by injuries. Last week, they played at Zionsville, fell to the Eagles by the score of 27-3. And Coach Comer, I think going into that game, he really wasn't sure who his starting quarterback was going to be. Was it going to be Clint Fink, or was it going to be Hunter Johnson, who was a little bit dinged up in the win against Harrison at homecoming? It was Hunter Johnson that took the snaps under center to begin that contest, stayed in the game all game long, but it wasn't a very good day for the freshman. He was only 3 of 14 for 38 yards, did not throw a pick, but just really couldn't get anything offensively in the passing game. And the Eagles did a very good job against the very talented running back for the Brownsburg Bulldogs, Tokes Akinrabadi, 19 carries, but only 47 yards, also had a fumble in that contest. And it was just a tough night overall for Brownsburg. It was a close game through the first half as Zionsville led that game 7-3 at the half, but they shut out the Bulldogs in the second half while scoring 20 points, and that sent the Bulldogs down to their fifth defeat of the season, snapping a modest two-game winning streak. The Bulldogs will take on a Fishers Tigers team that has simply been outstanding this year. Their only loss, week one, against a very good Noblesville team. Since then, it has been 7 straight for Coach Rick Wimmer's Tigers. They're coming into this game averaging over 36 points per game, only giving up 22. Connor Christensen is one of the best quarterbacks you'll find in the Hoosier Crossroads Conference, and they have a very talented wide receiver in Jay Shun Harris. This should be a game for Fishers as they look to at least wrap up the co-championship in the Hoosier Crossroads Conference. They are tied with Westfield. We'll have standings here in just a little bit. But Coach Comer, the Bulldogs, are going to have a tough one this week as they take on the Fishers Tigers. As I mentioned, Tigers ranked 6th in Class 6A. Moving on now, we'll take a look at Plainfield. Plainfield is 4-4. They have lost 3 in a row. The last one was at Whiteland last week as the Warriors won that game in a shootout 48-42. Plainfield with 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but they simply couldn't make up the deficit, and they fall to their 4th loss of the season while West Whiteland improves on the year. It was Jacob Maple once again running the ball very, very well for the Quakers. 34 carries, 194 yards on the game. Brady Nichols was 15 of 26, did throw 2 picks, and he had 191 yards. He did throw for 1 touchdown. Gabe Burkhart, 5 catches for 96 yards. Garrett Patton, 4 catches for 90 yards. They'll take on an Artesian team ranked 7th in Class 5A as Coach Fred Cutriff's team is coming off a 56-6 demolishing of Mooresville last week. In Martinsville also had a nice win the week before against Indianapolis Roncalli. Martinsville 6-2 on the year, scoring over 42 points per contest, giving up almost 25, while the Quakers offensively, they've been able to move the ball. It's been Coach Woodard's defense that he's been a little unhappy with. The Quakers come in averaging 35 points per game, but giving up almost 31, a little over 31 points per game. It's been a tight series the last 15 years. Plainfield is 4-3 in this series, but the Artesians, with a very, very sound football team, they look to be maybe in the driver's seat going into this contest. Danville last week, well, they fell to 2-6 on the year after losing to Frankfort in a game that went down to the wire, but it was Danville coming on the short end of the stick. They fell to the Hot Dogs by the score of 42-40, and they will wrap up the regular season at home when they host the Chargers of North Montgomery. North Montgomery is 6-2. They're coming off of a 3-game winning streak, and they had a very, very impressive win last week at home when they defeated Western Boone by the score of 21-7. Coach Charlie German's Chargers averaging almost 29 points per game, giving up only about 16 points per game, while the Warriors offensively not been as quite as explosive as they've been the last several years. They are only scoring almost 23 points per game, but the defense is giving up over 32 points. Danville, they run a fairly up-tempo team, and if you can't get points on the board, you're just giving the opponents that many more possessions to run their offense, and that seems to have been a problem this year for Coach Russell Sumner in his third year at the helm of the Warriors. This meeting over the last 15 years, Danville is 8-6, but North Montgomery playing very, very good football, and again, they come in 6-2 winners of their last 3. The Tri-West Bruins have now won 5 in a row after defeating Southmont last week by the score of 41-6. Head coach Chris Call's Bruins are now ranked 10th in Class 3A, and they should have an easy one this week. They're going to go play at Crawfordsville. The Athenians, well, it's been a rough year for Coach Mike Hammonds in his first year coaching. The Athenians are 0-8 this year. The Athenians only have been mustering about 14 points per game. They have given up, get this, giving up 51 points per game. Teams have been able to score early and often against Crawfordsville this season. Crawfordsville actually kind of kept it a little bit close last week when they traveled to Lebanon, but in the end, the Tigers got the better of it. It was Lebanon winning by the score of 41-20. Tri-West has owned this series over the last 15 years. They are 11-3, and the Bruins getting ready for sectional play, hoping to keep this winning streak alive. It stands at 5. They hope to make it 6 and end the season with a record of 7-2. Last week for the Bruins against Southmont, nice job by Jake Hendershot throwing the ball and running the ball. Hendershot 5 of 10 for 165 yards. He had a couple of touchdown passes on the game to Wes Cook, but it was Colton Job. He had his career high in rushing yards, rushed 8 times for 206 yards. You got that right. Only 8 times and still rush for 206 yards. He had a couple of touchdown runs. Wes Cook was 3 catches for 71 yards, and it was a really, really good week last week for the Tri-West Bruins. They look to continue that this week against Crawfordsville. In Cascade, they played last week Greencastle, and it was the Cadets coming up on the short end of the stick. Greencastle, very, very good team, and it was Greencastle winning by the score of 42-14. Sawyer Donovan for the Cadets, 9 of 23, 3 interceptions, only threw for 80 yards. Zach Batts led him in receiving 5 catches for 89 yards. And Zach Butler, 17 carries for 81 yards for the Cadets, but simply a little bit too much from Greencastle in that contest. Cascade still having an outstanding season under Coach Jason Thompson. The Cadets come into this week with a record of 5-3. They'll face a South Putnam team that's rather owned them. South Putnam 7-1 this year. They are not ranked in Class A, but who is right now? There's so many teams undefeated at the top of the 1A rankings. It's really hard for a team to sneak in there and contend for some of the top spots in Class 1A. So the Eagles under Troy Burgess having an outstanding year. They've won their last 6. They hope to make it 7 against Cascade as all these teams roll into sectional play. That will begin next week. We'll take a quick look around the conferences, tell you the conference standings. In the Hoosier Crossroads Conference, well, There's still a tie at the top of the conference leaderboard. Fishers and Westfield both at 7-1 in the Hoosier Crossroads Conference. Last week, Avon defeated McCutcheon 31-13. It was Fishers over Lafayette Jefferson 44-0. Hamilton Southeastern defeated Harrison 34-7. Westfield defeated Noblesville 17-14. That was a big game that a lot of us were looking forward to. And of course, Zionsville defeated Brownsburg 27-3. Games of this week: Fishers is at Brownsburg. Harrison is at Noblesville. McCutcheon at Hamilton Southeastern. Westfield is at Lafayette Jefferson. Zionsville is at Avon. So for Fishers and Westfield, should they win on Friday, we have co-champions in the Hoosier Crossroads Conference, as both of those are 7-1. Hamilton Southeastern, no chance for the HC. They could still, I should say, get the Hoosier Crossroads Conference, be a co-champion, but they would need to win against McCutcheon and then hope that Fishers and Westfield both lose, and then we would have a three-way tie atop the HCC standings. Avon is at 5-3, Noblesville and Zionsville at 4-4. Brownsburg and McCutcheon 3-5. Lafayette Jefferson is 1-7. And Harrison, the Raiders, well, they're 0-8. It's been a really, really tough year for Harrison, as they have now lost 34 straight games. That goes back a couple of years. In the Mid-State Conference, Whiteland is 5-0. They will play Greenwood this week. Whiteland wins. They're the undisputed Mid-State Conference champion. Decatur Central is at 4-1. As we take a look at action from last week, Greenwood defeated Franklin 28-10. Ron Colley over Decatur Central. Decatur Central held down a little bit last week by Ron Colley. The Hawks had come in averaging or scoring 410 points so far this season. So they have been a offensive juggernaut, but it was a good game by Ron Colley to hold them down. Martinsville defeated Mooresville 56-6, and Whiteland over Plainfield 48-42. This week, Franklin's at Decatur Central, Martinsville at Plainfield, Mooresville at Franklin County, and Whiteland is at Greenwood. As I mentioned, Whiteland, they control their own destiny. A win this Friday, they are the undisputed Hoosier Crossroads, Mid-State Conference champions. Decatur Central 4-1. They're hoping to defeat Franklin this week and hope that Whiteland loses to share the Mid-State Conference championship. Martinsville is 3-2 in the conference, 2-3 records by Franklin, Greenwood, and Plainfield. Mooresville is 0-6 on the year. The Quakers 4-4 overall heading into the final week of the season. And in the Sagamore Conference, it has been Lebanon mainly at the top, but the Tri-West Bruins now, they find themselves possibly in the mix for a conference co-championship or possibly an outright championship, depending on how this week breaks down. Games of last week, Frankfort defeated Danville 42-40. Lebanon over Crawfordsville 41-20. North Montgomery over Western Boone. That was a bit of an upset as North Montgomery got the Stars 21-7. And Tri-West all over Southmont 41-6. Games of this week, Frankfort is at Southmont, Lebanon is at Western Boone, North Montgomery is at Danville, and Tri-West is at Crawfordsville. As I mentioned, Lebanon and Tri-West, well, they're both 5-1 in Sagamore Conference play. A win by both, and you've got conference co-champions, a win by one and a loss by another, and you are going to have an outright champion. If both lose and North Montgomery can defeat Danville, then you have a three-way tie atop the Sagamore Conference for the conference championship. And finally, let's take a look at the West Central Conference. It has been Cascade bouncing up and down the West Central Conference, but right now South Putnam leads that conference with a record of 4-0. Games of last week, Brebeuf defeated North Putnam in a blowout 63-7. It was Greencastle 42, Cascade 14, Owen Valley 53, Cloverdale nothing, and South Putnam defeated the Bulldogs of Monrovia by the score of 34-21. This week, Cascader is at South Putnam to take on the Eagles. It'll be Clinton Central at Monrovia, Greencastle at Owen Valley, and North Putnam is at Cloverdale. As I mentioned, it is South Putnam on the top of the conference leaderboard with a record of 4-0. They are 7-1 overall. Greencastle is next with a record of 4-1, but 7-1 overall. Greencastle, though, has completed West Central Conference play. They're playing an out-of-conference game to end their season. So South Putnam can come away with the victory against the Cascade Cadets. They will have the outright West Central Conference Championship. Cascade could be a bit of a spoiler here, and that would have a tie at the top of the West Central leaderboard with South Putnam and Greencastle. Monrovia is 3-2 in the conference. Cascade 2-2, and then Cloverdale and North Putnam are 0-4, and that wraps up the conference. Again, final week of the regular season. A lot of games, maybe not so much in Hendricks County, but when you take a look around the whole state of Indiana, a lot of conference championships are going to be decided this weekend right there on the field. So should be a great weekend of high school football to wrap up the regular season. We are going to take one more break, and when I come back, we'll talk a little bit about sectionals. Let you know who's playing where. This is the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on 1610 AM XRB and XRBradio.com.
Right now at all Avon and Brownsburg McDonald's, you can check out the brand new Mighty Wings. Mighty Wings are hearty bone-in chicken wings that are crispy and breaded with a spicy kick. Available in 3-piece, 5-piece, or 10 pieces, a 3-piece is only $2.99 at all Avon and Brownsburg McDonald's. Are you interested in playing a sport at the collegiate level? College Prospects of Central Indiana can help you achieve this dream. Right now, thousands of college coaches are searching for athletes but lack the resources to find them. This includes Division I, II, and III, as well as NAIA and junior colleges. College Prospects can help both male and female student athletes get the best education at the best price that allows them to continue participating in a sport they love. We do this through maximum exposure, providing you with essential tools, video, and unlimited personal guidance during the recruiting process. For complete details on all of our services, ask your local representatives, Bill Verhonick, Megan Eganoff, Joe Palizzi, or Rusty Dimer. You can also visit our website at www.collegeprospectsofcentralindiana.com or contact us at 317-650-4339. We also offer services for gifted students looking for the best fit in academics as well. College Prospects of America can help you achieve your dreams. Since 1984, BMO Harris Bank has grown to become one of the largest banks in the Midwest, serving personal, commercial, and affluent customers. Located locally at 610 West Northfield Drive in Brownsburg, we thank them for their sponsorship of the Hendricks County Coaches Show.
Welcome back to the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on 1610 AM XRB and XRBradio.com. This week we are at the Avon McDonald's on Rockville Road on 267, right in front of Kroger's. Always welcome you to come on out, try their Mighty Wings. Man, they're good. They're really good, so come on out and try them out. Next week, final show of the season on the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show. We will be in Brownsburg at the McDonald's on Main Street. My special guest will be head coach Brett Comer of the Brownsburg Bulldogs, and we'll also have our College Prospects of America Athlete of the Week next week. We will get into all the sectional action, and while we have a little bit of time here on tonight's show, we're not going to get too in-depth into sectionals. We'll do that next week, but we will let you know a sectional draw took place this past Sunday, so everybody now knows who they're going to play. If you've been following high school football this year, you'll know that sectionals this year have been changed. A little bit different now that we have the addition of Class 6A. Of course, in 6A, you have the top 32 teams in the state of Indiana, and 5A has been reconfigured somewhat. So in Class 6A, what you're going to see is games beginning next week. For a lot of people, that is really the sectional semifinal, if you want to think of it in that term. If you want to think of round one, round two, where most teams are starting, that for all the Class 6A schools, all of them have 4-team sectionals, and they will all be starting in basically the sectional semifinal with the winners meeting in the sectional finals. In Sectional 5 in Class 6A, well, that's where the Brownsburg Bulldogs and the Avon Orioles reside. And this is going to be one of the toughest sectionals in the state of Indiana. In fact, you take a look at this one in the Hamilton County sectional, which has the likes of Hamilton Southeastern, Fishers, Carmel, and Noblesville, teams that are all in the top 20 in Class 6A. My gut feeling is that out of these two sectionals, one of these winners in the sectional that advance and go to regionals will probably be a team that ends up at Lucas Oil Stadium playing for a state championship. The Brownsburg Bulldogs, they will open on the road at Pike. Pike 4-4 on the season, but they're playing in a very tough Metropolitan Interscholastic Conference. The Avon Orioles, well, they're playing the Ben Davis Giants. That game will be at Ben Davis. Both of these games played next Friday night at 7 o'clock. Ben Davis, 6-2 on the year, currently ranked number 2 in Class 6A. But as I've said earlier in the show, I would put Ben Davis right now at the top of 6A. They are playing the best football, and no offense to the Penn Kingsmen, who currently are ranked number 1 in Class 6A with a record of 8-0. They have not played the competition that Ben Davis has, and Ben Davis has already knocked off the number 1 team in the state, Center Grove, just a few weeks earlier in dominating fashion. So Ben Davis might be playing the best football of any of the teams in 6A, and that's who Avon has drawn. It'll be Avon's defense trying to shut down that Ben Davis offense, and hopefully the Orioles can score enough points maybe to get one over on Ben Davis. Should either Avon or Brownsburg advance, if Avon advances, they will play the sectional championship game at Avon. If Brownsburg advances, they will play. If Avon defeats Ben Davis, that game would be at Avon. If Ben Davis wins and Brownsburg should beat Pike, Brownsburg would host that game. So that's how Sectional 5 works out in Class 6A for both Avon and Brownsburg. Taking a look at Sectional 22 in Class 4A, that is where Plainfield and Danville will play sectionals. Both teams beginning it next week. Plainfield will be on the road. They will play a very tough Lebanon Tigers team. Plainfield 4-4 going into this week. Lebanon 7-1. The winner of that game will play the winner of Indianapolis Roncalli versus Mooresville. Mooresville 0-8 has had a real tough season for the Pioneers. Danville drew Indianapolis Northwest. Danville 2-6 on the year. They'll open up on the road at Northwest. Northwest 1-7. The winner of that game will play the winner of Chittard versus Northview. Coming up, Chittard 5-3 on the year. Northview is 6-2. Sectional 29, Class 3A. That is where you will find the Tri-West Bruins, and they didn't get any favors in their draw. They're going to take on Greencastle, who is 7-1 coming into games this week. Winner of that game will play the winner of Crawfordsville and Edgewood. Brebeuf and North Montgomery and West Vigo and Western Boone also in that same sectional in Sectional 29. And finally, in Class 2A, Sectional 37, Cascade will open up at home, but they drew the Speedway Sparkplugs. Sparkplugs have already spanked the Cadets once this season. Cascade looking for maybe a little bit of payback. That game was earlier this year, was at Speedway. Scratch that. Cascade's on the road at Cloverdale. Speedway is hosting Park Tudor. The winner of Cascade Cloverdale would play the winner of Park Tudor in Speedway. Park Tudor 1-7, Speedway 6-2, Cascade 5-3. Cloverdale 1-6. Other teams in that sectional, Indianapolis, Washington will take on Ritter, and Monrovia will take on South Vermilion. That is how Sectional 37 shakes out. We're going to talk more about sectionals next week on our final edition of the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show as we take an in-depth look at where the teams are, where the teams go. As I mentioned, sectionals a little different this year. In 5A, you're going to see some teams that actually have byes. That's not something we've seen in high school football before. You could have 2 teams playing next Friday and then 3 teams that will get a week off in 5A and not play until November 1st. Or you've got teams playing October 25th and 1 team getting a bye. It doesn't shake out all the way through in all the sectionals that scenario plays through. You do have some 8-team sectionals, so some teams are going to be lucky to have a bye. Some teams will have to do what, if you want to call it a play-in game, I guess we could call it a play-in game. But Class 5A going to look a little different this year. 5A is anybody's ball game, as we've said the past few shows. You've got a whole bunch of teams that move from 5A to 6A, so you're going to see a whole lot of new faces, new teams that could possibly be state champions in 5A. Right now, Westfield, the number 1 team in Class 5A. You also got Plainfield trying to see if they can right their ship and move on up and get ready for action in Class 4A. None of the Hendricks County schools are in 5A. So we'll see how that goes. But sectionals right around the corner, and you can keep you all up to date right here on the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show. This week on 1610 AM XRB, we got plenty of football to bring you as the Brownsburg Bulldogs will wrap up the regular season, and they'll do it at home, but they'll do it against the Hoosier Crossroads Conference co-leaders, the Fishers Tigers. Catch all the action right here on 1610 AM XRB and XRBradio.com. Troy Weimer will have the call. Don't believe Chris Worley is with him this week, so it might be Justin Hobbs, might be Rob Kendall. We never know. But we'll have all the action for you right here on 1610 AM XRB with a kickoff set for 7 o'clock. Also, we will have the game between the Avon Orioles and the Zionsville Eagles. You can watch that game on XRBradio.com. Yours truly will have the call of that game as the pregame show will start at 6:45. The kickoff is at 7 o'clock. I'll be joined by the Indiana Football Hall of Famer Dave Shelburne for the call of that, which should be a very good football game between the Avon Orioles and the Zionsville Eagles. And finally, we will have the Plainfield Quakers on XRBradio.com as they wrap up their regular season, hosting the Artesians from Martinsville. Catch all the action at 7 o'clock on XRBradio.com. I want to thank our title sponsor here for the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show, McDonald's. Tonight we've been at the Avon McDonald's off Rockville Road, right in front of Kroger's off of 267. And next week we will be at the Brownsburg McDonald's on Main Street. I'd like to thank our title sponsor, McDonald's. Also, College Prospects of America. They brought us our College Prospects of America Athlete of the Week. He was senior defensive back. Get a little ahead of ourselves sometimes on this show. It was senior defensive back Ryan Bradley was our College Prospects of America Athlete of the Week. Also like to thank BMO Harris Bank for sponsoring the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show. Like to thank my guest this week. It was Avon head football coach Mark Bless. And again, the Orioles taking on the Eagles this week on XRBradio.com and Audio Sports Online. It's been a lot of fun tonight. Hope to see you again next week. Make sure you tune in next Friday, final edition of the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show on 1610 AM XRB and XRBradio.com. You can also watch a video podcast of this show, on Audio Sports Online. It's Brian Scott saying it's been my pleasure. We'll see you next week on the McDonald's Hendricks County Sports Show.